Today I decided that I would make a video to introduce myself a little bit to you. Then I will also go through the questions of the BookTube Newbie Tag so that you get some more ideas of who I am as a reader. And then finally I will do a little bit of explanations as to what I plan to do on this channel, what kind of videos, what kind of rhythm, etc. But let's start just by who I am. So to start with, I'm Charlotte. I come from Switzerland. I'm a native French speaker, as you probably heard, but I currently live in Zurich. And I've lived here for almost 5 years. It's the place also where I'm currently working. And I like being here. I like this city. It's always been a city where I felt good. I like reading, which is the reason why I started this channel. I also like cooking and food a lot. I like going to museums. I like going for walks outside, and I like swimming in the lake in Zurich or in the river. It's really nice in this city. You get to swim in the river in the middle of the city, looking at the life around. I love it in the summer, although last summer was not great with the weather, so I couldn't do it that much, but looking forward already to next summer to be able to do it. And I think that's all I'm going to say about me for now. As you will see, you will probably get to know a little bit more about my life in the next videos. I plan to do a little bit more. And I thought I would start with the BookTube Newbie Tag because it's kind of a BookTube classic, and it goes through the main important point about who we are as readers and also why we're here, why we're on YouTube, and more specifically on BookTube. I have the questions down on my computer, so I'm gonna look down at the questions and then give you my answers. So the first question is, why did you start this channel? It's a good question. I've been following booktubers for, I think, a bit over 2 years now. Maybe even more. Maybe more like 3 years. Yes, maybe more like 3 years. And I always found it interesting. I didn't know it existed. And then I read A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara, and I had lots of thoughts about it, a lot of conflicting thoughts. My view of the book changed as the book went. I'm not one of the lovers of this book. I have some pretty clear issues with it, but I also link to my own life and very subjective views, as in every opinion on the book. But I had so many thoughts that I decided, okay, let's see on YouTube, because you find everything on YouTube, if there are people talking about it. And I found out not only were there people talking about this book, but there were people talking about all types of books. Some that I love also, some that I'm not as interested in, but I discovered so much through it. And then I think throughout last year, I started thinking, I would actually like to talk about the books I like too, and to find people who are like-minded, and to get recommendations, and to interact more than just leaving comments on other booktubers' videos. And so why not start? And I thought about it for like 6 months, and I kept thinking, oh, right now is not a great time, which is true. I'm doing a master's, it's not a MSc, it's a MAS, which means Masters of Advanced Studies. So it's something I do in parallel to my current job, but it amounts to well over 100% occupation. So maybe I should wait until I'm done with that. But then I also thought that might be a nice break from like the studying and the things I have to do. It's going to take me a couple hours a week, which is I could give up other things than my studies and my work in order to do this and to enjoy it. So why not start now? And I thought about it over Christmas, and then like first week of January, I decided I was just gonna sit down and try a video and see what happens. So that was my first video that I filmed, which wasn't this one. It was my favorites of last year. And I really liked it. So I'm just going to keep going and we see what happens. I'm not doing it to, like, it's going to be a hobby always. I'm not even doing it to get lots of views. Of course, I'd be happy if people watched it and interacted. But I think for now, it's like something that's fun to do. Talking about things you love, and what I love, among other things, are books. All right, then the second question is, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to BookTube? I don't know what kind of fun and unique things I can bring to BookTube. I think it's always nice to get opinions about many different types of books. And I read mostly literary fiction, but not only. I got into some other style. I mean, I've always read a mix, but I'm trying to get outside of my comfort zone. And I think last year, I started to branch out quite a bit. And well, as you hear, and as I said in my last video, but I read half in French and half in English. I decided a couple years ago that I would read books written in English in their original language, and then French-speaking literature and other types of translated literature in French. And I would try to keep about a 50-50 ratio of the two languages. And this means that at least half of what I read was not originally written in English, which means for English speakers, if it gets translated, it will be translated literature. And I think a lot of people here on the channel are looking for more translated literature, so I hope I can bring some of it. And maybe some of the books I read will never be translated into English, but I think it's always interesting to hear about other types of literature. And I try to read about people who are not like me, and from people who are not like me. And I try to get to a bit of a diverse reading landscape, and I hope I can keep doing it. I'm actively trying to expand continually. I hope that I can bring a nice mix of different types of books on this channel, and some insights or some peeks about what might come next to the English-speaking reading community, hopefully. Then the next question is, what are you most excited for about this new channel? Well, I'm excited about getting more active into the BookTube community. I'm excited about getting comments, getting some interaction with other people, possibly other channels. I'm excited about sharing about something that I love. As a short summary, but I think it covers the main topics. And fourth question is, why do you love reading? That's almost a philosophical question. I love reading because it brings me somewhere else. It shows me points of views of people who are different from me. It brings me to places that are not the same as the ones I know. It allows me to go into the minds and the heads and the hearts of other humans, and I find this fascinating. That's why I love reading. Let's keep it at that. Number 5. Which book or series got you into reading? Well, this is something that I find very difficult to answer, because I started reading pretty young. I was 7. I come from a house where people read. My mother is a librarian. She always read books. Her parents also read books, and my father's family also are people who read. Not as much, but they definitely read books. And my father became a very voracious reader over the years. He reads every night, whatever happened during the day, however late it is, he will read from his book. And my siblings also read. Maybe now a bit less. My brother reads. I have a sister and a brother. My brother never read that, but he reads. He's someone who reads books. It's part of our life. And so as long as I remember, I've been read stories, or I have read stories myself. And so it's hard to single out one. I remember when I was little, I read from these books, I don't know, I think it was written originally in English. The translated version in French is Oui Oui, and he's like a little elf that has adventures with his friends, and those are really easy to read. There was this collection called Bibliothèque Rose, which were books for reading beginners. They're real books. They have like maybe, I don't know, 260 pages, but they also have lots of pictures, and they've been going on for years because my grandmother had all the ones from my mom. And so I remember reading the Wee Wee. I remember reading, there was this girl solving crimes called Fantomette, who I really liked. There was stories about a little lion, like, who also had adventures with friends, and I love these. And then also very quickly, my mom started giving me classics to read. Not like for educational purposes, but just because she knew they would not have, too much violence in them or too much like indecent stuff. And I wanted to read more. And so I just kept reading them. And then when I was about 9 years old or 10, I had to do a school project on a topic, and I chose the topic of Charlie Chaplin, and we needed information to prepare it. I say we because my mother was very implicated in it, as far as I remember. And so she told me, okay, so we have to go to the library to get that. So we went to the larger town, few kilometers away, and she signed me up for the library. And I remember I'd never been really in a public library before because she used to work in like some kind of academic library. And so it was kind of a revelation. And from then on, I went to the library and I picked up lots of books. And I have lots of titles that come to mind, but it's not, I don't know any of them particularly got me into reading. It's just, I loved going there and I loved reading books. I don't know if it's a very satisfactory answer, but that's my answer. Then number 6 is, what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? I'm assuming it's about their BookTube channel. I think I would ask them how they keep going and what it brings in the long term. I'm starting it kind of, I don't know if it's on a whim, but very, kind of spontaneously. I decided before, between Christmas and New Year, I was going to do it. And what I'm most looking forward to is seeing what it brings to daily life, to reading itself, to the experience of reading, to have a channel additionally to it. And I think it might bring something different from everyone. And I'd like to know what it is for the people I regularly follow on BookTube. Then question 7 is, what challenges do you think will be hardest to overcome when starting this BookTube channel? Honestly, for me, I think it will have to do with timing, with scheduling. As I said, it's pretty busy for me, and I'm starting, I have exams this month, and then I'm starting a master's thesis. So until the summer, it will be tricky with scheduling. And then I have ideas of what I want to do. I have some clear ideas, I have some less clear ones. I'm going to be experimenting with what types of video I make, but that might be a challenge too, to find out, what kind of videos do I like to make. I'm deciding, I'm assuming that things that I like to do might be the things that people like to watch because they feel how much fun it is. for the person making them, but that might be completely wrong. We'll see. But I think that might be also a challenge to really kind of fine-tune what types of content do I want to produce on this channel. Then question 8, when did you start reading? I already kind of answered it before. When I was about 7 years old, I started reading, like full-on reading books. And then I read a lot until I finished high school, and then I started university, and then it kind of went down for a few years. Like, yeah, the way I was through university, and then 2 years after that were a bit complicated years in my life. I didn't read that much. And then I started reading again, and I really picked up again when actually I moved here, because I used not to have my books with me. I have, like you see in the bookshelf behind. This was my first apartment where I lived on my own, and I finally had some room to put my books. And it, again, since I hadn't had them with me for a while, and it really kind of encouraged me to read much more again. So that was 2018, end of 2018, when I went from reading maybe, I don't know, 10, 12 books a year, but that was kind of my amount since I started university, to where I am now, which is about 50 books a year, which is what works for me, considering, you know, my life, what I like to do, how much I read, how fast I read, especially in English. I'm a bit slower than in French, but it's also a lot of fun, so happy with that. Question 9 is, where do you read? I read in my bed in the evening, sometimes in the morning on the weekends. I read here in my living room, especially also on the weekends. Sometimes in the afternoon when I have, you know, like some free time to read. I also like to read in the train. I regularly go back to see my family in the French part of Switzerland. It's about a 1 hour and a half to 2 hour train trip, and I always have a book with me, either audio so I can look outside, or like a physical book. I like to take books that are maybe a little harder to get into to those trips, or books that I want to like get a big chunk of done, and this way I know like I will have within a few days 2 times an hour and a half or 2 times 2 hours to really, you know, like get going on those books. Always fun. And then last question is question 10, is what kind of books do you like to read? I already mentioned what I like to read mostly is literary fiction. Before I started reading BookTube, I didn't know that literary fiction was a category of books, because those are a lot of different books for me, like lot of different topics, lot of different provenances, lot of different types of stories. But then I looked up my favorite books, and then I figured out they all get under this umbrella of literary fiction, which is a category that doesn't exist in French. I'd never heard it before. It's just fiction. It's novels. I read mostly fiction. But then I also read some mystery books. Not that many thrillers, but some mystery books. And I like speculative fiction, magical realism. I got a bit into fantasy, especially last year. I read some fantasy as a teenager, as a child, like I think lots of people. I was never like someone who read only fantasy. That wasn't me, but I read some series. I think like everybody, Harry Potter, and then I read his Dark Materials, which I loved so much, and I read Lord of the Ring. I read like kind of big classic, or not classic, but very well-known fantasy series, and then some other stuff. But now I got a bit back into it. I think I will make a video about that, about what kind of fantasy I read, and then a little bit of sci-fi. Not that much, but some sci-fi. I also like it. I like I like sci-fi and the philosophical ideas it brings with it. And I think this is mostly what I read. I try to read as I said before, fiction from different parts of the world. Oh, and I read classics, obviously. Sometimes it's hard for me to differentiate between literary fiction and classics, because where do you put the, where do you put the marker that says these are classics and this is just literary fiction from 40 years ago, something like that. But I read quite, I'd say about maybe 20% of classics, typically. So yeah, those are the types of books I like to read. And but I'm always open to new stuff. Something very important to me when reading is the style. If I don't like the style, I probably won't like the book. I like lots of different styles, but it has to be something that fits with me. Generally, very classical styles are good with me. I also like some poetic writing, even a bit flowery. I like flowery writing, but it has to be done a certain way. It's kind of, it's hit or miss. But yeah, that's definitely a big factor in which books I like and which I don't. All right, and then I think we're through with the BookTube Newbie Tag. I hope it brought you some answers about who I am as a reader and what I want to do with this channel. And I will just kind of follow up with a few more things about this channel, the organization, what to expect in the coming weeks or months. So first, I think I want to try and post one video a week. It will probably be on Thursdays, because this is a schedule that works with me for now. I don't really do TBRs. It's not really my thing. I might do a couple of it. I think what I will try to do regularly are wrap-ups, monthly wrap-ups, because those, like whatever I read, there will always be a wrap-up, something I'm done with at the end of the month. I have some ideas of themed videos that I want to do, either around a topic or about my reading. I'd like to present to you some of the fantasy sci-fi series I'm going through or projects I have, and the same with classics and literary fiction. And then I think later I want to talk about more topically themed recommendations or types of books I've been reading and would like to discuss, like in more of a thematic context. What I also want to try is some kind of vlog type format. Yeah, I have ideas, and I will try and post one still this month, and we'll see what happens, how you like it. But yeah, those are the main types of videos I think I want to try and post on this channel. All right, I think that was everything for me. I'm looking forward to seeing you back for the next videos. And until then, I wish you all the best.